How you doing, folks? Well, I'm just after arriving at the shed where my Beetle is being painted, and I haven't seen the car yet. The only thing I've seen is the couple of photos that I put up on my channel's community tab page, and nothing more than that. So I am really excited to have a look at this car. Yes, folks, it is finally in paint. Now, just a heads up, this video will feature a little bit of an anachronism, simply because of the fact that the last time I was here I tried to fit the gearbox and found I didn't have everything I needed. So what I'll do is I'll include that footage of me fitting the gearbox after the reveal, and then we'll continue on with the fitting of the gearbox and a few other little bits and pieces. So yeah, anyway, without further ado, let's go in and have a look and see how the car is looking. Just a little bit of this has been just polished back and ready for its big reveal. And my God, the colour depth in that is absolutely incredible. It's hard to visualise without seeing it in the metal, because every angle you look at it, it's a different shade. It's kind of purpley bluish. You know, it's still at the point of being flatted back and polished. The colour is BMW B51 San Marino blue, and my God, what a beautiful colour it is. To say that I am thrilled with this is an understatement. Now, as I said, it needs its final polish just to rub out any imperfections or whatever, which is absolutely fine, that's to be expected. But, wow. I think the overriding emotion at this point, folks, is wow. What a colour. This is really breathtaking, you know, and by the time this car is finished, it's going to look absolutely cosmic. What do you reckon? Will it be worth the wait? I sincerely hope so anyway. So there's a few bits still to be done on it. Obviously the paintwork needs to be finished and flat back and all that, so that's absolutely fine, you know. I mean, we know the paint job isn't finished, but you can see the colour for yourselves now, and you can kind of join me on the journey a bit. The next thing to do is to pick up where we left off for the installation of the gearbox. Now I'm going to stick the footage in now of me installing replacing the engine mounts and doing a couple of bits and pieces like that. So you can see that, and you'll obviously, we'll pick up from where we left off. So yeah, you'll get to see that now in a minute anyway. Refitting this gearbox while the body is off. Because when the body is on, you're working under the car. Now, it's right in front of you, so why wouldn't you do it now? The only thing that's annoying is, I got new engine mounts, and look at this. The bloody bolts are too long, and they protrude into the bell housing, so I'm having to grind off the shank of the bolt, sticking into the bell housing. And, you know, that's the type of stuff that annoys me, you know? I mean, like, why can't they just fit, like? They should have known that. But the silly thing about it is, that's one engine mount. The other one here, around here, is grand. You don't need to do anything with it, so it's fine. But the old engine mounts were probably alright, but you know what? While it's out, why wouldn't you replace them? They're not exactly expensive items. And I have a new front mount as well, and there is a new coupling on the gear shift there as well. I'll blow everything down. It's obviously covered in dust here. I'll blow it all down before I fit it. So now I just need to finish with the blipper here, removing some of the bolt material, and then we'll try and offer it all up. all of the grinding sparks. Anyway, I think that'll do the trick. There's enough material gone off them now, it's not going to cause a problem. And I just tipped the bell housing there. It'll be grand, don't worry folks. Anyway, right, yeah, so that's all that done, and I even gave the outside of the gearbox a little lick of paint and tidied it all up. Never going to see it, it's going to be under the car, but I'll know. So there's the old front mount, and while the gearbox is upside down on the ground, it's definitely a nice handy job to do to get this off. If it was under the car, it'd be a bit of a faff. But there again, I suppose it wouldn't be, you'd have the gearbox out anyway. But anyway, the way it works is you have this cup here. This lad goes inside it. I know it's a little bit rusty, it's alright. It's just, you know, it's a 45-year-old car. Not gonna be perfect. So that goes on like that. And then this goes on the gearbox like this. And then there's a little spacer plate. Goes on there. Nuts and washers, bish bash bosh, thanks very much, good luck to you. And that's the job done. So that's the three engine mounts replaced. And I know it's a little bit of gearbox oil pooling underneath. We'll be alright, don't worry, it'll be the right way up now in a minute. Alright, so we have the bolts for fitting the gearbox this time, which is what we didn't have the last time. So we're picking this up from where we left off. So these are the two big bolts that will actually go in here. But what we need our gearbox, obviously, first of all, and our cradle bracket, which is this lad here, and that will go on there and basically tie the two sides of the gearbox together. And I'm not fully sure what way around it goes. I imagine it goes like that, actually. It would make more sense. Anyway, we can figure that out when we come to offering up the gearbox. I will try and obtain a trolley jack or something like that, just to lift the back of the gearbox and just try and line it all up rather than me having to try and manhandle it. And we might not need the jack at all, actually. So there's slots in the front mount, and I just need to get the gear shift coupling on. Okay, so you can see here what I'm doing is I'm just literally connecting up that there on the forward end. If you look in down there, you'll see the front mount, and there's two bolts going up into the chassis that hold the front of the gearbox in place. Now the back end of the gearbox, we need to put our cross brace on, and once we have a cross brace on, we can put our two large bolts in. The gearbox is kind of held on with it's just being held in place there with the CV joint flanges, so it's not going to go anywhere, which is handy. There we go. It's pretty obvious which way it goes, actually, when you look. That's what I was expecting to happen. So I'm missing bolts to go in through those holes, but I don't think I'll need them just yet. So what we can do is I'm not entirely sure what those other bolt holes are actually for, really. I suppose to hold the engine mount. Maybe it's to stop the engine mounts from twisting or something like that, but whatever they are, anyway, we can go without them until we're fitting the engine. Shouldn't be a big deal. Alright, so the 20mm bolts. So alright, so they're both tight now. So I will need to obviously put those bolts in at some point or another. So, mental note. And this is always the way you guys can remind me as well if I nearly forget. So we're just now we'll slither underneath and get the two bolts at the forward end tightened up. And then that's basically the gearbox in. So if you have a look underneath there, you'll see Exactly the bolts I'm talking about. No fear of them coming loose anyway. Okay, they're tight. Yes, I could have taken the nuts off and cleaned the threads, but where's the fun in that? Anyway, they're definitely not coming loose, so that's that done. So the gearbox is officially in. All I need to do now is I just need to tighten up the bolt that holds the shift coupling on. It goes into a little spud. Well, it is a spud, it goes into a hole. So, you can take that out there and you can see there's a recess, and that's got a pointy end on it. So I need to get a suitable tool for tightening that up. 8mm spanner will do the job nicely. So snipped. You don't need to swing out of things like that, in fairness. So let's just see how the gear shift is feeling now. It's all new gear shift bushes on. Oh, that is lovely. So you can see down the back there. That's first, second, third, fourth. Happy days. There we go. Okay, so the gear shift is now sorted. So next thing we need to do is we need to put a bonding strap on. And the bonding strap is not going to do a whole lot because the framework goes on is covered in paint. So what we need to do is we need to actually grind a bit of that paint away underneath there, because if you don't have that nice and clean on both ends, your starting motor is just not going to work, because that's basically the negative of the starting motor. So let's get that straightened out. Okay, so that's the gearbox all bonded up now. So, happy days. The clutch pedal could actually be connected now, which is the kind of funny thing about it, but may as well do it now rather than waiting. So there's a Bowden tube that goes, that bracket there has to go on as well. I'm wondering, is the Bowden tube going to get it work? No, I'll tell you what, we'll put the drive shafts on first and then we'll put the clutch on afterwards, because that's just going to get in the way. Okay, so it's time to fit the drive shafts now. So I did a job on just cleaning them up and re-greasing them. So just a case of refitting them now. Alright. Okay, that's drive shaft on the left hand side of the car installed. Now I'm going to go and do the one on the right, but you get the gist. It's going to seem like a strange thing to want to do, but I want to test out and make sure the starting motor is actually working, and that the bonding is alright for the gearbox. Let's get that connected up. The jumper pack is on. What we need to do is just basically bridge the contact on the starter. The spanner will do the job fine. Well, that's not looking good, is it? Let's see. motor's free to turn. So that's why you test these things now and not when the car's all back together. Ah, I just realised why it's not working. Have the wire that goes into the motor is actually disconnected, so the solenoid may be working but the motor isn't. Well, hopefully that's all it is, so we'll just get that connected in and see how we get on. Hopefully that's all it is. I would have thought I would at least have heard the solenoid clicking though, but okay, it's turning but very slowly. That's not good. Maybe it is the bonding. So let's just put the lead directly onto the gearbox, or onto the starter actually. Better again. Now let's see. So if it's bonding then we'll know, because it'll spin over like good one. No. I think our starter might have had it. I know it was I have to have a think about that one. But we'll come back to it. Let's get the other drive shaft fixed, or finished first of all. Fitted even. It'd be silly of me not to take it off now and just bring it with me when I'm going home. So I'll get a suitable size spanner and take that nut off there, and we'll take the starter off, find out what's going on with it. Hopefully it's nothing major. Okay, so the gearbox is all done. I have the two CV joints on. I removed the starting motor as well. It was only the 15mm nut on the bottom that was actually holding it in place. So that's done. So now what I want to do is I want to remove the front suspension, and the simple reason for that is just to make installing the body easier. So what I want to do first of all is I want to undo the two mounting points for the anti-roll bar and let that drop down, and then there are the two bolts for the track control arms, and once I have them undone, then the whole operation should just come out from under the car. Obviously there's more mounts than that when the car is actually put together, but most of it is already removed, but in this instance that's good enough. So let's see, I think we need a 13mm here. So like I said before, using somebody else's tools is like wearing somebody else's underpants. It just doesn't feel right. I can't find bloody anything. So bring the socket set over here. It's a nice blue point socket set actually. I don't mind it at all now, I have to say. What I'll do is I'll take these bolts, these nuts off, and then what I can do is I can put the nuts back on the studs so that I know where they are. There's all poly bushes on the front of this car actually, so the bushes should actually be alright. I shouldn't need to replace them. Poly bushes make for quite a firm ride, but they do help with the road holding. And actually I have to say, contrary to popular belief, this car actually does handle quite well. 1303s do. Yeah, it's a standard Beetle might not, but a 1303 certainly does. They feel much more composed than standard Beetles on the road. and definitely something you'd be much more, you'd feel much better about having a bigger engine in. Oh, that's getting dry. Bollocks. That's going to be a hassle. I broke the bolt, of course. I don't have any WD-40 here, or any other oils or penetrant greases or anything. Right. That is going to be a real nuisance. I'll figure that out afterwards. I'll have a think about it. Maybe what I can do is turn the whole thing on its side when I have the suspension off and have a look and see what I can do to actually address that. So for the moment, come on over and have a look. Okay, so this is where you adjust your camber on the car. There's an eccentric washer under this bolt, and what I want to do is I want to mark the eccentric washer in relation to the point it mounts up against. Although I'm just looking, I think I'm going to need new bolts there, because the eccentric washer on one side is in a different position than it is on the other side, which it should not be like at all. They should be exactly the same on both sides. So I'll need new bolt and new washers there, so I'm going to have to pick them up as well. Alright, that's another thing to consider. Anyway, let's get them out. There's no point in marking them because they're in the wrong position. Alright, so let's see how tight these bloody things are. So ring the end of a spanner, link another spanner, and alright, that's that one cracked. I do the same on the other side, and then I'm going to get the wire wheel onto the bolts, and I'm going to just tidy them up. There's the eccentric washer there, by the way. So you can see basically as you rotate it, it finds a different position, but there's flats on the bolt, and they're supposed to line up with flats in those eccentric washers. But whoever did the camber adjustment for me before made an absolute bollocks of that whole mechanism. Alright. Alright, the suspension is free of the car. Okay, so the front suspension is removed, which was pretty straightforward, all things considered. And there is the front frame head. There's where the bolts go through those brackets there for the lower control arms. There are no upper control arms on a Beetle, actually. And the gearbox is successfully installed, both CV joints, both drive shafts. They're all tightened up. Clutch cable is on. Taking the start motor off, as I said. And yeah, and the one thing I really like is, since I put polyurethane bushes, that feels beautiful. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there, folks. So you can see the Beetle is behind me undercover again. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll chat to you again soon. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll keep you updated with my progress on the Beetle. Chat to you soon.